So you're bringing Izzy in. All right. And you're keeping that Bo Nickel, right? You're keeping that piece shined up. And I just personally don't know the complete plan with Bo. And in all fairness, I don't know the complete plan with anybody. What I mean is, where I'm confident with it, where I can look at it, I can study, go, Chael, you got this one. You got this all figured out. I'm not sure. Like, doing squash matches is just really rare in MMA. We could count on one hand easily in the modern era how many guys have been put in a position to do squash matches. So if you're doing a squash match, why are you doing it? Well, it's that old rule because we're building a guy up. Well, not necessarily. If you're putting a guy buried on an undercard, right? If you're giving him a squash match to build him up, but you're putting him in a placement that nobody's going to see. I mean, it's one of these things that it's hard to know. It's hard to judge. Okay, is this the next guy? And Dana White has never been scared to say when it is. I mean, Conor McGregor's career looked like a fine wine because Dana openly said it was the first guy Dana ever did it about. First guy Dana openly told me, hey, I'm building this guy. Yeah. Do big announcements, big fights, lots of attention. I'm not going to give him a suit, just so you know right now. Like, you can tease me when that's done, or you can tease him, or you can try to pull the whole thing down. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to build him slowly. The reason I said it was like a fine wine is along that build, there was a very easy fight with a kid from a place called Lafayette. Apparently he's in Louisiana and he likes hot sauce, and his name was Dustin Poirier. How you like that for an easy fight? There was another easy fight, and even easier, with the youngest guy in the entire organization at that time, who I believe was 1-0 or 1-1. That was an undercard fight. It was so easy. His name is Max Holloway. So, I mean, it was one of these deals where build a guy doesn't work. They're all killers. And it's just one of those situations that I'm sharing with you. When we look at 185 pounds, there's a lot of confusion there. You got one guy that wants to fight. Right now, anybody, his name's Marvin Vettori. It's the only guy. You got a great fighter named Jared Cannonier. He doesn't tell anybody he's fighting. He's just not equipped with that. He's handsome, he's charismatic. I met Jared Cannonier. I gotta tell you, I could not have enjoyed him more. And you turn the cameras on and it came through on camera. I was going, why go in front of cameras more? Like, he's very good at it. But that's not a guy you can put into title fights, because title fights go into main events. That's not a guy you can main event. So you start to run into some of these positions of, well, who's going to be next? Izzy comes out, he puts out a piece and says, yeah, I am coming back, and 2027 is off the table. I'm going to return to the gym March 1st. I think he worded it the end of next month, the end of February. Great, I'm going to call it March 1st. If that's true, if we're getting good, accurate information, and I believe that we are, right? I don't think you could keep that a secret if he was in the gym right now training and looking good. Telephone, telegraph, telefighter. You know that where, hey, have you heard? Hey, Izzy just said that he's not training. Yes, he is. I've got a photo of him. Don't tell anybody I said it, but I saw him sparring yesterday. I mean, that's how that would work. So I'm forced to take him at his word, which removes him from 300, which the entire reason that Strickland and Du Plessis got forced to the market in Ontario, of all places, is to feed into Izzy for 300. So I'm here to ask you a different question. If Sean Strickland loses, what are the chances he gets a rematch? And it starts to look so obvious that the plan is Izzy. And maybe the plan has nothing to do with 300, but it is Izzy. Okay, I agree with you. We're close. We got a hold of the right tool, even if by the wrong end. And then we've always got the Chimaev option, and we're shining other guys up. And certainly, if Paulo Costa was to get over on Whitaker and could fight a normal schedule, right? If Paulo cannot get a normal, which is 3 times a year, if he can't do that, it doesn't matter what he's ranked. He won't get the opportunity either. He and Cannonier will be the same spot. So, the one thing that gets left out, though, is what happens in that immediate moment. And it's not as though we have to go back, right? It's not as though we got to get a Toyota Celica up to 88.8 miles an hour. Was it the Celica, was it? What was that? Back to the Future. You can see I watched Back to the Future recently.
DeLorean.
The DeLorean, thank you! My partner Ryan comes in over the top. Yes, of course it was Toyota Celica. What? DeLorean. But We don't have to do that. We can just look at present time. Dricus Du Plessi was named the #1 contender. Sean Strickland beat Adesanya. They tried to rematch Sean Strickland and Adesanya. And everybody understood why. It was the one thing that we didn't see. Right? When you tell Du Plessis you're next, the one thing you don't see is the one thing you would never consider a 6-1 underdog going into hometown, taking it on short notice, who's also a kickboxer, who, by the way, has a common opponent and got knocked out by the guy you've knocked out. I mean, it was one of these things. You never saw it coming. Strickland had it all, man. He had the controversy, he had the Crocodile Dundee, he had the look, he had the energy, he had the tears at the end. It was this incredible moment, man. It's incredible what Sean Strickland did and then the way that he did. So you rematch it. You rematch it, and nobody questions it. You rematch it to the fact that you know Du Plessis going to have to fight somebody else. Nobody can wait that long. That's a prize fighter. To the point that you're so confident in all of that, you just hold another #1 contenders match in the same weight class between Kamaru Usman and Khamzat Chimaev. I mean, I'm just telling you guys, this is the timeline that was a fascinating thing. And it's the one thing that needs to be considered. The must-see fight right now. The must-see fight that's signed right now is Strickland versus Du Plessis. And that is the one that came in to press time with the least steam. There was nobody anywhere talking about Sean Strickland versus Du Plessis. When Du Plessis got his golden ticket rescinded and Khamzat Chimaev rose up and Kamaru Usman was going to be one of those two, he never saw that fight and said, hey, man, forget about all this. I already got the ticket. Take me down to the chocolate factory. It just didn't work that way. I mean, when I tell you nobody did, that was including the principals here, including their coaches, including their trainers and managers. No one talked about this fight. And now it is the #1 fight that you want to see that's signed. There is no supporting cast. I do this for a living. I cannot tell you anyone else on the card. I'm not attempting to be funny, by the way. If I saw the card right now, I would know all the names. I'm just sharing with you. I don't have it memorized. I don't know who's on the card. I don't know. There's been no bill. There's been no reason I would know. There's been no billboards. There's been no marquees. There's been no headlines. There's been no countdown shows. There's been nothing. There's just these two. Do you know how rare that is? You might think I just insulted the card of the other fights. No, not at all. It's a very rare time in this sport. Our sport didn't have the confidence that it could do that. The way we ended up with 5 feature matches, just so you understand, it wasn't to have a greater marketing tool than boxing. It was never done for that. As we looked at it and said, we don't have what boxing has. Some people say we have as small as a 20th of what boxing has. Well, if we have a 20th and times it by 5, that was the math, just so you know how we got there. So when you have an MMA card that is so big, it's just main event. That's just not what we do. Speaks to a massive fight. That's what I'm saying. So now imagine that there's controversy. Now imagine there's a surprise. Strickland is officially the favorite. He went from a 2-1 dog over at DraftKings. He's now the favorite, officially. I mean, it's close and it's tight. And I thought it was one of these was going to bounce back and forth. It hasn't. He took the lead, and he kept the lead. And it got real close, and he kept the lead. I mean, it got all the way down to plus 115 to negative 105. I mean, that is as close to even money as a person could speak. John Anik, Ian Parker would back me up and tell you that's as close to even money as our sport's going to have, right? So, what would happen between those two if there was controversy? What would happen if there was an upset? What happened if Sean lost? The way that these two, and I hope you understand the timeline for me telling you nobody wanted to see that fight, to it's the most sought-after fight. I hope you understood the point that I was getting at, which is they got there with a press conference. Nobody wanted to see the press conference. These press conferences were such an abysmal disappointment because Ian Gary didn't show up. I mean, do you guys remember this? No one anywhere was talking about let's get Du Plessis and Strickland on the stage. It was very serendipitous. And it made for an amazing moment. And then you have Strickland, the kids coming over the top rope, right? I mean, there was just things that happened. And they did them like that. And you do have a couple of constants here. You do. If you go look at the divisible in these equations of great marketing, it doesn't seem to matter who Strickland has. He makes it work. He's a main event guy. And here we are, 3 for 3 at a Du Plessis, and he only stepped in the ring once. Du Plessis made you want to see him and Whitaker. And he made you want to see him and Izzy. And he has made you want to see him and Strickland. Du Plessis has something. That's just the truth. He's just got something. So what's going to happen when these guys actually fist fight? And then both take a microphone after. What does that fight have to look like? What do those interviews need to sound like? What needs to happen for the whole world to go, stop, rematch them. Izzy, thank you for coming, stay where you are. Rematch them. What would need to happen? And I'll answer it in short. You want to know what needs to happen? Not much. It's very possible